What's going on, guys? It's Sarge Raver with the 360th Recruiting Group, and today we're going to answer some questions. Again. Question series. It's going to be a lot of fun. I got to stop in the sheets first and get some stuff. Alright, for sheets. Holy cow, is it busy. Dang, guys. This is a spot right here. Please tell me this is a spot right here. Up front parking. Oh, that's that call ahead parking. Heck yeah. Forgot my wallet. Okay. Oh, we're back. We'll move before flight. Look out, everybody. I'm backing up. Whew. This question's a doozy. So it's, can you tell airmen your experience in the Air Force so far? Wow. So I've been in the Air Force since 2011, so that's 12 years now. I was in my delayed entry program place until I was in a DEP my entire senior year. I think I reached out to a recruiter when I was like early 17, and they told me to come back when I was 18, so I just kind of hung around the DEP, I think, for a little bit, and then I did my whole DEP process. I wanted to join the security forces. I wanted to be a cop. I thought that was a cool job. However, I went to MEPS and I did my thing, got checked out or whatever, did some paperwork, passed MEPS the first time, and then I got back home. I had another job as well when I was a senior in high school, so I was working on the weekends and stuff like that. My recruiter called me up and he said, "Hey man, I have this airborne operations job if you want it." And I said, "What do they do?" Because evidently I'd put that on my list of jobs I'd be interested in. I just kind of threw some jobs in there, whatever sounded cool, and but security forces was number one. I really wanted that job. They said he didn't have any security forces jobs, and I could wait if I wanted to, but high school was coming to an end, my senior year, I was about to graduate, and he said, "Hey man, this airborne operations job is available if you want it." I said, "Yeah, what do they do?" And he got into it, and he was like, "Hey, have you ever played that Call of Duty mission?" And this was the original Modern Warfare that he was referring to, where you're in a gunship and you blow people up, the AC-130 gunship, and you blow people up. And I said, "Yeah, man, like, I love that mission." He goes, "Yeah, that's what you'll be doing." And I was like, "What? That's awesome. Sign me up." I said, "Yeah, man, I'll take the job." So anyway, I leave for basic training with an airborne operations job, knowing that I'm going to be flying, which I enjoyed flying at the time from where I had traveled before, and I have taken flights. I genuinely enjoyed that experience. So doing a job while flying was not a big thing to me. Some people are afraid of flying, and just because you're afraid of flying doesn't mean you don't have to join the Air Force. There's plenty of jobs in the Air Force that don't fly, a bunch of them, and you might do a couple flights to different places, like to locations and whatnot, but it's really nothing. It's nothing that you won't do on a commercial aircraft anyway. And the amount of safety that goes into military flying is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous in a good way, not in a bad way. Safety is not ridiculous, but there's a lot of safety that goes into Air Force pilots and Air Force aircrew to ensure that safety is number one at all times, no matter what. So you're good to go. So anyway, I leave for basic training. Basic training was a little rough for me. It wasn't rough in the sense that it was hard. It was rough in the sense that my flight made it harder. You got to understand, the purpose of basic training is to, I knew I said I wasn't going to talk a lot about basic training in these videos, but I find myself talking about basic training every single video, so I'm sorry. My flight made it extremely hard because you got to understand that basic training is revolved around you guys coming together as a team and meshing as a team and completing objectives as a team and getting every team member past the finish line. If somebody's failing, you have to double back, help them out, and then reach the finish line. You can't just reach the finish line and then go back for this person. For example, you're going to roll your t-shirts, you're going to roll your socks, you're going to roll underwear, you're going to do all this stuff, right? If somebody is struggling and and let's say there's 5 people, and 4 people are crushing it, and they're done, and they're just waiting around and hanging out and shooting the breeze with other people in your flight, and this one guy is struggling, one guy or gal is struggling to roll these articles of clothing, that's not going to go over well, because you're letting this person fail, and you're more concerned about yourself and you getting through than helping out the team for the greater good. So our flight did not mesh as a team very well at all. So we did a lot of push-ups and flutter kicks and sit-ups and burpees. So make sure that you mesh as a team as much as possible. If you are an element leader, make sure that you are leading and jumping in there and leading by example. One thing I can say with whether it be basic training or the operational side of the Air Force, 12 years in, a leader always leads from the front. If you have a leader leading from the back, they don't have that situational awareness to get that accurate scope, that accurate battle picture of what's going on the front line. Okay, so if you have a commander, for example, who is leading from the back, and there's problems that your unit is running into, and you keep funneling that stuff up through your chain of command, your boss, and they go and tell their boss, and their boss tells their boss, and it makes it all the way up to the commander. He's going to make a judgment call based on what all these people are saying, who might butter up the situation, like, sir, it's not as bad as, sir or ma'am, it's not as bad as these airmen say it is, but I recommend doing this. And then the commander might make a little tweak rather than a big tweak that needs to be done. So always lead from the front. If you're an element leader, help roll those socks, get into the dirt with your team, and make sure that mission is accomplished, whatever that mission may be. So basic training was a little rough because we failed to come together as a unit all the way up until the end. I left basic training, and my tech school was at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. So, obviously, you know that's where basic training is. My tech school dorm was right across the street and the field from my basic training squadron. So, I literally saw my squadron every single day when I woke up and went to go to breakfast and came back and did PT and whatever. Tech school is, you're going to feel this leash on you, right? And as you progress through tech school, that leash is loosened a little bit day by day. It might not seem that way the first week or two you're there, but bear with it. It'll take time, and then you'll eventually be able to go off base pretty much whenever you want. When I got to my tech school, there was like an orientation phase. I think it was like a week. I want to say it was 2 weeks, but I don't think that it was. I think it was just a week. And then they just took you around base and showed you the different parts of base. They sat you through some classroom portions about, I don't even remember what they were about, but just hang in there. And then I eventually started my actual tech school. My tech school was 2 months long. It was all academics. The day by day for my tech school personally, when I went through, was wake up at, I think it was like 6 or 6:30, do PT, which is like an hour and a half later than you would wake up in basic training. I think you guys wake up at 5:30 now in basic. It was like 6 or 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock that we woke up and did PT. We would do PT for like an hour or so. It was usually like a jog or a group PT session. It wasn't as serious as it was in basic training. And then you would go eat breakfast, and then you would go back, get changed and ready for, your day, and then you would go to your school and you'd march over there, and the instructors would let you know, hey, we're ready for your class. So then your little flight walks in, and go in there and you do your school, and then you march to lunch, then you march back, do some more schooling, and then you're done every day by 4 o'clock. Pretty nice. And then you have the rest of the evening to do whatever the heck you want. So that's where the leash gets loosened a little bit, right? You can go eat dinner at a chow hall, you can go on a restaurant on base if you want. But with that being said, you should be studying as well. The course that I went through required me to study every single day, even on the weekends. I was not big into studying when I was in high school, so studying was a new experience for me. I just kind of skated through high school, which is not the right way to go about things, because I'm learning later in life how to study, and that's not what you should be doing. So make sure you're studying if you can throughout your downtime. I'm not saying every single hour of every single day, but definitely get out there, do some recreational stuff, hang out with some people, make new friends, because those friends might help you out later in your career. And then from there, my school, because I was air crew, there's a potential that I might find myself in harm's way more likely than other career fields. So I had to go through SEER, which stands for Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. You can do your own research on SEER. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of SEER, but at the time, it really wasn't that fun. But looking back at it, I really enjoyed it. I know that sounds dumb, but it's just one of those experiences in life where you just have to do it and understand what we went through, and then, or understand what you go through when you go through SEER, and then you'll kind of understand where I'm coming from with this whole thing. But SEER was a good time. I was the last class in December, and this is up in Washington State at Fairchild Air Force Base. So it was like 3 feet of snow. We're outside. It's like negative 19 degrees one morning when we woke up, and we're sleeping outside. So yeah, that's what it wasn't fun, but looking back, it actually was fun. Like the stuff you do in SEER is fun, but the environmental aspect of it cannot be fun at times. It all depends when you go through. And then from there, I flew down to Tinker Air Force Base, which is where I got stationed. I got there, it was right after the new year of 2012, and I don't think we did anything the first couple months I was there besides in process. So we in process for like 2-3 weeks maybe. Only one person had a car, so we had to use that car to like drive around and in process the whole base. And then we started our initial qualification training, which lasted, I think that I2T class lasted about 6 months. And that was classroom stuff, flying. Now, when you get to a base, if you have a different, oh, are you kidding me? Is this ramp closed? This is where I have to get off. Alright, so you might not have to do initial qualification training. Sorry, I'm trying to like figure out, the ramp was closed I was supposed to get off at, but that actually it's open, but they had a whole bunch of trucks up saying that it was closed. Anyway, some jobs don't require you to do that initial qual. They just require you to do some on-the-job training, and you'll just kind of shadow somebody, normally an NCO, a staff sergeant. You just shadow them, and they'll teach you everything you need to know about this career field. And that's kind of nice, because then you can just learn the job and learn how the ops tempo is and how your unit is. Are they either super busy or kind of laid back? It's going to usually depend. But yeah, that's really fun. And then you start getting into the groove of things. I completed my initial qualification training with a Q1 no write-up. So in the aircrew world, that's like, hey, you passed. There's nothing you need to work on. Congratulations, you're going off to your unit. There was a stigma around our flying community at the time where this one squadron was kind of not the best squadron to go to, and I don't get to pick which squadron I go to, and there was 5 squadrons I could go to. There was a different airframe, so I was on the E3 AWACS at the time. That's where I did my initial qualification training too. And there was another platform out there at the time, which was the MC-12W, and it was a man sensor operator platform. I remember saying, hey, if I end up going to this one, if I get assigned this one squadron after initial qual, I'm just going to go straight over to the MC-12 unit, the small little unit they had there of sensor operators, and I'm going to apply and volunteer to to go do that. And sure enough, don't know, I checked my RIP one day, and a RIP is just a sheet that you get saying where you're going to go. I checked my RIP, and it had that squadron on there, and I said, yep, cool. So no sooner than finding out that I'm going to this unit, I walked over to my one of our flight chiefs. He was a senior NCO at the time. I said, hey, I want to volunteer for the MC-12 program. He said, cool, are you sure you want to do that? And I said, yes. And then he walked me across the street to the MC-12 unit, and ever since that day forward, I was now a sensor operator. So I did initial qualification at Wiley Post, which was a small little airfield in Oklahoma. It was right up the road from Tinker, not that far, and I went there to go fly and my academics and stuff like that. I was driving out there every single day. So I found myself going through initial qualification training, changing planes as soon as I was done, and then doing another initial qualification training. That lasted about a month and a half, 2 months, and then I went to Beale Air Force Base in California, and then I did mission qualification training out there, and that mission qual was 3 months total. I had a great time up in Beale. That is a fantastic base. I really love Beale. If you're an outdoorsy person and you're not from Beale, but your job can go to Beale, I would definitely recommend Beale Air Force Base. It is such a beautiful base. The only downside is it's in California, and I'm not trying to get into politics or anything here, but the cost of living in California is really high, and so you will be offset a little bit of that, you know what I mean? But still, that plays into the factor of finances. Just be aware. But it's not unmanageable. You'll be alright. That being said, after that mission qualification training, it was just a straight off to a deployed environment. I went home for a week because of some rotator stuff that I couldn't hop on the rotator. The rotator was bucked. So the rotator is a plane. It's a civilian aircraft that the military rents out that essentially flies you to your deployed location. Or it gets you like 3/4 of the way there, and then after that you take like a military aircraft, like a C-17 or a C-130 down to your deployed environment, or where you're going to get deployed to. So there wasn't enough seats on the rotator, and I, being Weaver, was the last person booked on the rotator, and I wasn't able to get booked until another week. So I ended up asking, hey, can I fly home, which I'm from Pennsylvania, and the rotator flies out of Baltimore. So I said, hey, can I just fly home for a week, hang out there, and then catch the rotator whenever it's coming into Baltimore? And they said, sure, just don't miss it. And I said, roger that, I won't. So I came back and hung out with my wife at the time. Well, she was my girlfriend at the time, but my wife now. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good, yeah.
Pretty good. Thanks, you too. So that being said, I jumped on that rotator, was off to Kandahar, Afghanistan. I met a guy at the BWI airport. His name was Staff Sergeant Daniel Fannin. Man, this guy was like my guardian angel. He actually, I was walking by, I'm 19 years old, I was scared, I was deploying to Afghanistan. I mean, I've seen the news back at, this was in 2013 now, and I've seen the news, I know what's going down over there, it's a little bit rough. The summertime is called fighting season, and that's when stuff starts to kick up with the Taliban, and their aggression really comes out in the summertime for whatever reason. There's Ramadan as well, which in the Muslim culture you fast throughout the day and you're allowed to eat at night. So yeah, they're a little bit hangry. But that being said, I was walking up and down the terminal in Baltimore, and he happened to see my patch unit that I was going to, and he said, hey man, are you a sensor operator? I said, yeah. And then he kind of took me under his wing, and we went to the USO. We stocked up on toiletries and stuff like that. I didn't have any of that. He got me some of that for free. Then he kind of just stuck with me the entire time we were traveling out there. So became really, really, really good friends with this guy. I was an A1C at the time, and for a staff sergeant to not think that he was above me and to kind of take me under his wing was just really special to me, and I really appreciated it. And we hung out every single day out there. We would shoot pool, we would watch movies, There's really nothing else crazy to do out there. There was a boardwalk out there at Kandahar. We would go out to different restaurants on the boardwalk. It was just a great time. So I got out to Kandahar. I was flying and doing my mission and stuff like that. Long story short, one of our aircraft went down one day. He happened to be on it, and he passed away out there in that aircraft crash. It was, if you want to look it up, Independence 08, that crash. You want to look it up and read about it, go ahead. But yeah, we lost him. I went through mission qual with the pilot, Captain Brandon Sear, CYR, and he passed away in that crash as well. And then there were two others, another pilot and a dude in the back who does like some top secret stuff. Really sad. Our unit took a huge hit from that, but that's where I'll leave it off for now. Yeah, sorry to leave you guys on a bad note, but I'll pick up where I left off here shortly. I'm gonna go into work, and then I'll come back out and do another video on my way home. So, catch you guys on the flippity flop. There probably won't be a break in the video, but you know, just like pick up where I left off. But alright, so I'm back. Didn't mean to leave on a doom and gloom note, but there was that deployment. That was a good deployment out to Kandahar. Besides everything that happened, there was a lot of unit cohesion. That unit cohesion is something that a lot of people who aren't in the military will never understand. You're going to get that unit cohesion at a stateside unit, but also when you deploy, that unit cohesion in a deployed environment is just tenfold better, because everybody is going through the same exact thing at the same exact time. You're living in the same areas, you're eating the same food. The struggles are equal. Everybody's going through it, and I don't know, I guess it's just hard to explain. But you're a very tight-knit community when you're deployed with your unit. So I get back from that deployment, was going through some stuff, so I wasn't flying at the time. I went to, I was just not flying at the time. I was going through some stuff from that deployment. So I was doing a side job in the Air Force, so instead of flying, do my primary duty, I was doing security clearances for people. That was really cool, and my boss at the time was a senior master sergeant. I won't mention his name, but he was freaking awesome. He really helped me out with dealing with what I was dealing with, and how do I put this? Helping me out with that day-to-day and get reacclimated with the Air Force stateside, because it was just so different for me when I was deployed. He really helped me out with that, took me under his wing. It was just me and him in the office, so it's not like he was giving me special treatment over somebody else. It was just me and him working in the security office, and it was just fantastic what he was doing for me. So I eventually got in a good spot to start flying again. When I started flying again, my career fields had merged, so I joined as a 1 Alpha 4, and the 1 Alpha 4s merged with the 1 Alpha 3 career field, so I was no longer airborne operations. I don't even know what it is. I think it was airborne mission systems. Yeah, that's what it was. I was no longer airborne operations, I was airborne mission systems. So I didn't have to go to my previous position in the AWACS. I could move different positions in the AWACS. So what I did was I did a lot of radios when I was deployed and doing that sensor operator job. We had 5 radios on board, and so I got very, very proficient with radios. I was very good at working on radios, and I was very good on talking. I was very good at talking on the radio, because believe it or not, it's not like talking to somebody over a cell phone. It's different. There's a lot of radio etiquette you got to pay attention to, a lot of brevity, like Roger and Sparkle and whatever. There's certain type of words that you say that mean things that are longer. So instead of saying, hey, I threw down a laser at this spot, it's, hey, I'm sparkling this spot. or whatever. So I got very good at talking on the radio and very good with radio. So on the AWACS, I asked to be a radio guy, and they made me a radio operator, so I was now a row on the AWACS, and that was a very fun job, especially coming back from something that I was doing that was fun and I got a lot of excitement and joy out of. Coming back to flying on an airframe that was a little bit farther away from the fight than that sensor operator gig was. It was, I thought it was going to be very hard to acclimate, but that radio job gave me something to focus on, and the Air Force really took care of me on that side of the house of like getting me the job that I wanted on that airframe. So I was a radio guy for a number of years. I think it was like 4 years or something like that. I did the radio gig and loved it, did another deployment out of it, and went to Al Dhafra Air Base over in the United Arab Emirates. That was a good time. The squadron, again, that unit cohesion, they have, we deploy with 6 different crews on that deployment. Each crew kind of had their own little unit cohesion within the unit itself, so we were very tight-knit. We flew with the same crew every single time unless one person was sick and they couldn't fly, so somebody else jumped on. But we were crew 1. The crews weren't ranked on how good the crew was. It was just, you just got assigned a random number, and we just happened to be crew 1. And yeah, crew 1, we had a great time, executed our mission to the best of our ability, and had just a great group of people flying with us. Came back from that, did some trips to Canada, up to Goose Bay, and that was a fun time too. I've never been to Canada before until that time, but man, that was awesome. Taking a look at different stuff up there. Can't really get into the mission specifics of what we were doing up there, but that was a good time. And then I started having some medical issues that were going on with me. I'll backtrack and we'll backtrack all the way to Kandahar. My first couple hours in Kandahar, there was an incident where I got hit a little bit by a mortar. It didn't land on top of me or anything like that, but I suffered some sort of TBI or concussion, whatever you want to call it, and I didn't go get medical help when that happened. I should have, still to this day, I definitely should have gotten treatment with medical, but I didn't, and my thought process was, hey, I'm here to support the guys on the ground, being a sensor operator. I'm here to support these guys on the ground, and I'm not going to let a little headache / concussion get in the way of that. I'm out here. You really do feel like when you're stateside flying missions and doing training missions stateside in any career field, and then you go out there and actually do the mission itself, you feel like you went from JV to varsity, and that's how I felt. And I said, I don't want to be on the bench anymore. I don't want to be benched because of an injury. I want to get back out there and aid the best I can with my mission. So with that, I'll fast forward again to where I was. I was going through some medical stuff at the time. Would have been around the 2016 time period, and I got disqualified from flying, and I was kind of held up in a weird spot with my job, and I wasn't able to fly anymore and perform any of my duties. And we have SEER specialists that are located with us at flying units. So there's SEER specialists that are out all over the place, all different types of bases that are there to do refresher training with the air crew every so often, every so many years. They do refresher training just to make sure that if something does happen to you and you end up landing in a bad environment, that you know what to do, and that refresher training is there to remind you of, hey, these are the habits I need to get into, here's how to land navigate, here's some medical stuff, here is how to procure food and water and stuff like that. So our SEER guys, we had the biggest amount of air crew in one area. We had like 1,900 air crew at Tinker in Oklahoma, and there was one SEER guy who was managing that entire training process. So obviously that's kind of a no-go. He is very, very undermanned. So the SEER guy reached out and said, hey, you wanted some help? I wasn't flying at the time. I was doing my medical stuff, so I said, yeah, I'll go down and help this guy out. I assumed it was only going to be for a few months or maybe a year at the max, but I was actually down there for 3 years doing that job. I was not a full SEER specialist, but I was trained on pretty much, besides like one thing that SEER specialists do refresher training wise, and I absolutely love that job. That job is a hidden gem within the Air Force. If you have the capability and the drive to be a SEER specialist, go for it. It is rewarding. I cannot stress that enough. I worked with 3 different guys when I was there. Well, you can count 4. The one guy left very shortly after I got there. But all 3 of those dudes that I knew very well, all 4 of them really, were great individuals, great guys that I can rely on, I can depend on. I still reach out to this day. This is 3 years. This is 5 years after this now. I still reach out to these guys to see how they're doing, how life's going, check in on them, shoot the breeze. I can depend on them for anything. We built our own little unit cohesion within our unit. It was awesome. I cannot stress enough how rewarding that job was for me, and really opened my eyes and built a work ethic within myself that I didn't think was possible, because I thought I already had great work ethic already. But absolutely rewarding job. I just can't talk about it enough. So from there, my medical stuff started catching up with me. Because I was just kind of thrown into that SEER job, and I also was going through some medical stuff, I couldn't really, that wasn't my primary job. That wasn't my primary AFSC. I was held in a medical type of hold AFSC. I eventually had to go and contribute again to the Air Force, and they threw me into another AFSC, and I'm now to this day still personnel, a 3FO, and I've worked a plethora of different types of jobs in personnel so far. I started out in a military personnel flight in MPF at McGuire. I will say to any Air Force member who's watching this, it might seem like your MPF isn't doing a lot for you, and it might seem like they're lazy or they just don't care. That's so far from the truth. These guys do care. They're here looking out for you and your best interest. They have that in mind. They really, really do. It's just they have so much going on. They have so much work. Their reenlistment team is doing reenlistment every single day, and they have so much of these. They have so much assignments that they have to get out. They're constantly updating EPRs and ribbons and decorations and stuff like that. So give them time to work your stuff. Obviously, don't wait till the last minute to keep asking them for stuff. Elevate it if it needs to be elevated. But I worked in an MPF for around a year or so, maybe a year and a half, and there's a lot that goes into an MPF. That's the first time I really managed airmen. I had one airman prior to working at an MPF. I had an airman when I was flying, but I was a senior airman. He was an A1C, so there wasn't really too much leadership I could give this guy. But being a staff, as long as I was at that point, that was the first time I was able to lead my people, and I would like to think that I took care of them the best I could. If they needed resources, I gave them resources. I would put up those blockades to my leadership. If I feel like they were asking too much of my airmen, I would throw up that blockade and say, hey, they're already bogged down with as much as they are right now. They have too much going on. You need to delegate this to a different office or a different section, or I'll take it on myself, and I'll task myself with something extra that I don't want to put on my airmen. I would like to think that I did that for them, so maybe they'd agree with me, maybe they wouldn't, I don't know. But I didn't make it well known to them. I don't care if they know extra stuff I'm doing or not. I know that I'm keeping stuff off their plate, and just letting them do their job and go home and see their families, which is what they want to do. At the time, that's what they told me. They just want to do their job and go home. So that's what they ended up doing. That being said, I went from there to a mobility squadron, and their primary goal in that mobility squadron was to pack cargo for different branches like the Army and the Marines and teach them. It was essentially just a bunch of instructors teaching them how to pack cargo in the back of Air Force aircraft. And then I support a lot of officers in that unit as well, who their primary goal was to establish airfields, makeshift airfields like dirt runways, and have aircraft land there and stuff like that. They worked a lot with combat controllers to land aircraft there and then unload that cargo. That was a great unit. I worked with a lot of great people in that unit. I cannot stress that enough. Those guys were awesome. They had my back, I had their back with certain stuff. So I went out of my way to try and do as much as I could for that unit, but I was still young in the personnel career field and working at a unit rather than an MPF. Still new, and I didn't really know all that much. And then I ended up getting this job out here working for a recruiting group, and made tech back at that last unit, and I was able to come out here and work for this recruiting group, and this has been nothing but rewarding since I got here. This might be one of probably the top 3 best units I've ever worked for, worked with, worked in the Air Force so far. This place is absolutely phenomenal. I love the mission. I love answering questions that people who aren't in the Air Force yet have, and telling my story. I just absolutely love this job. It's so rewarding. But I'm doing the personnel side of the house up here, and we have 9 different squadrons across the Northeast and Europe and Africa that we support. It's very rewarding. I absolutely love this job, and I'm here to support those squadrons down there, those up there in the Northeast, from Michigan to Jersey, from Maine all the way down to South Carolina, and then the European part. Absolutely fantastic. I love this job up here. So that's my experience in the Air Force. I kind of gave you the short version of it. I'm sure I'll get into some more details about little itsy-bitsy parts of my career and break that down, and really give you the longer story of maybe some of those deployments that if you have questions about, and how my Afghanistan deployment was different than my United Arab Emirates deployment. Maybe you have questions about me being a younger airman and what I experienced leadership-wise to what I see now being an NCO leadership-wise, or how I view leadership. And again, that's not going to be I'm not speaking for the Air Force when I say all this stuff. This is just me and my experience and what I've dealt with so far. And it's going to differ for you, and it's going to differ for other people as well when they go through. They might be more restricted with their leadership than you might be in your career. So take that for what it's worth. So that's pretty much all I got so far with this question specifically. I'll just leave it at that. I'll just do this one question about this, and I'll probably make this its own separate video. But that's all I got. Let me know in the questions. Man, I always do that. Let me know in the comment section if you guys have any questions about this particular subject, which was my career so far and just a broad overview of it. I'm only at 12 years. I still got at least 8 more to go. So that's all I got. Again, leave your questions in the comment section, and I'll see you guys next time.